We looked down at this table in front of him, and there was the double-bladed lightsaber. That's Darth Maul. Well, I got to meet Ray Park when that movie came out. It's very interesting. I grew up in a suburb of Chicago, and at a theater nearby, we went to the midnight screening the night before the opening night. So we had seen Phantom Menace. So the next day, we came for opening night, and there was a guy there, and he had some people were talking to him, but most people were walking right past him. We're looking at him. We looked down at this table in front of him, and there was the double-bladed lightsaber. And we're like, that's Darth Maul. And it was Ray Park promoting the film at a theater a mile and a half from my house that I grew up in. And at the time, I had recently been kicked out of the Juilliard school, and I had no idea how one could possibly become an actor. And I was talking to this very lovely, nice gentleman, Ray Park, who was being so nice to us. And I was thinking to myself, wow, how does someone get so lucky? How does someone get to be in Star Wars? How do you do that? I guess you wait 20 years. I mean, I got very, very lucky, but I never would have dreamed that was going to be a character that I could help create an interpretation of. And I could work with Ray. I think it's because of the conflict within him. Because Maul has never been just, he's a bad guy, don't get me wrong, but he's never been one thing. He's always had very interesting perspectives. He's always had very interesting opinions. And so in our show, Shadow Lord, we explore opinions that he has that have maybe changed. For example, Maul was a classically trained Force user. He grew up in a time of passion, of magic, and knights and dragons. And now he's seeing an empire come to power because the Clone Wars have just ended. So he sees the empire come to power, and it's not quite what he thought it would be. And he's watching that empire sort of suck all the magic and life and color out of the universe. So how does he feel about that? How does he feel about this empire, which was supposed to be partially his, but this is not what he thought he was signing up for? And how does he feel that his sworn enemy, the Jedi Knights, they're gone? Does that change how he feels about the Jedi? Because he now sees an alternative. The Empire and the way what's left over is quite different than what he was fighting before. So how does he feel about his sworn enemy being absolutely extinguished from the universe? And so, this is a man who's trying to figure out his place. What is he supposed to do at this point? Can he do anything? And in the middle of this, perhaps he discovers that he would be best served training an apprentice. And so how does Maul train an apprentice? Not how does Palpatine, not how did the Sith do it. How does Maul train an apprentice? Well, it's always been a challenge playing this character, but this is a bigger challenge than we've ever had. Because if he's going to be your main character, and we have several characters who are also point of view characters, it's sort of an ensemble cast. All different viewpoints, different shades of, the galaxy. Because we are essentially creating a show that is bad guys versus worse guys. But Maul has always been a challenge. Maul is always really hard to get right. And this one, he's even harder to figure it out. But wonderfully, these are the same folks that I've been working with for 15, 16 years with this character. So we have every intention to push this further than we've ever seen a Lucasfilm animation pushed. The look of it, the feel of it, the sound design, the colors, the character poses, all of that stuff. It's all recognizably Clone Wars. But if it seemed like that art style is just a little bit more dangerous looking, a little bit more rough around the edges, a little bit more jagged, well, it's all that's through Maul's perspective. That's how he sees the galaxy. Well, whenever you're playing any character, you're trying to create as detailed and nuanced a person as you can. So when I play a good guy, I'm looking at the things that are not so good about the good guy. I look for that. If I'm playing a bad guy like Maul, I'm looking for the things that you might not expect that aren't so bad, actually. Maul does have a few virtues, traits that are actually not very Sith-like. Now, people might say, oh, you're just inventing things. No. These are things that I've been aware of about the character for a long time that people have not, maybe they've instinctively registered, but they haven't totally picked up on in terms of who this guy is and why he does what he does. So in this series, we get to go deeper into those things. Now, he is still a bad guy in this. He does some bad things, but this is in fact bad guys versus worse guys. As bad a guy as Maul is, he's not Sidious, he's not Palpatine. Palpatine is the baddest of the bad. Maul is not that. Maul has some traits that the Sith would consider to be weaknesses that would not make him an ideal Sith Lord. He's certainly not a Jedi. He doesn't do things that way. But there's some traits that he has that I think might surprise people. Well, there's an obsession with Kenobi, obviously. It boils over. I mean, he seeks him out in Twin Suns because he has no place else to go. I mean, it's a really sad story in that way. And he needs Obi-Wan Kenobi to, in a way, help him out of this cycle that he's stuck in. But what's interesting about our show is this is a Maul who's like, well, Kenobi's dead. What am I going to do? Go after? He's gone. The Jedi are gone. So he has to figure out a new destiny for himself. And with Kenobi out of the picture, we discover that Maul is a little smarter than we thought he was. And that he perhaps sniffs who's really to blame. Because ultimately, is his life of suffering, is that Kenobi's fault? I would argue that Maul is smarter than that. That given a choice, when you take Kenobi out of the picture, does Maul really know who's caused the most suffering? I think he does.